back, everybody. We are back with yet another week of our good old podcast.
With a brand new episode for you guys today.
The new intro.
Yeah, gotta change it up. Gotta have some variety in there somehow so we don't keep getting dogged on.
We actually coordinated today. We're both wearing black. Look at that.
Oh, very nice.
Doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah. I always got my steel shirts on. My wife hates it because I'm always wearing steel.
Yeah, no, I'm going with the bulk buy Gildan shirts. So
yeah, you gotta your Dorinaball. You gotta get your Dorinaball shirt.
D-Bal.
D-Bal. Dorinabal.
Testo Max.
Yep. I totally don't take Testo Max.
Yeah, I mean that kind of just feeds into my little update, so I'll just kind of go with that. But we're 1 week on the crazy bulk stack, which if you don't know what that is, take a listen to last week. Last week I kind of did a more in-depth kind of run of what crazy bulk is, but it's the supplement brand that I'm taking right now. They have a bulking stack, and I mean, Paul and I talked about it during the week, but I felt, better energy during the week. Of course, it's the first week I'm taking it, so we're calling it for the placebo effect right now. So in a couple of weeks, we'll take a look at it then. But one thing that I can't really argue for the placebo effect is that I'm up 3 pounds, which for somebody who has literally plateaued at 200 for the past 2-3 years, that is not placebo effect, really. That is legit shit right there. And granted, my diet has been more locked in now than it's ever been, even when I was with the coach. So I'm really locked in diet-wise, and I made a couple changes to get me above the 4,000 mark. So right now I'm sitting at 4,100 calories a day, which is, I mean, that's the most I've ever taken.
That's a good chunk.
That is, I mean, granted, I have to drink a lot of it because and so that means my my bathroom trips are not as enjoyable as a normal person's. Not saying that they're enjoyable in general, but
let me ask you this: have you tried, just to consider, maybe at some point, while you still have, so like you're drinking like a bulking powder, right?
Yeah. So I drink it's called a mass chaser, but it's really just a mass gainer. I have several protein shakes. Like I have one right after my lift. I have one with my post lift meal, and then I also drink a smoothie that's pretty much close to 500 calories.
Wait, what's the difference between post lifts and post workout meal?
So I have like a half-hour commute. So right as I'm about to leave the gym, I bring a little, it's like an 8-ounce container, but I throw the equivalent of 16 ounces of protein, like what you would mix with a 16-ounce into that.
How many grams of protein?
Grams of protein, it's 48.
Okay.
Because I just double scoop and into a little 8-ounce thing. It's just more condensed, and I like it that way. Because
thicker.
You really want to be giving your bodies after a really strenuous and intensive workout. You want to give something within that first half hour, and I happen to be driving for a half hour, so I just pound that drink and then eat immediately when I get home. And then I have another shake with it. Then
it's not because like you're hungry or anything.
I do get hungry, but it's more so just to make sure that there's protein in my system while my muscles are kind of on the if you downshift it in a car. That's the best way I can make an example for. Like you're in your fifth gear for an hour, and then you start downshifting, and you need the clutch.
So you're hitting your anabolic window.
Bro, the anabolic window, I can eat whatever I want, and it's okay.
Yeah. That's essentially what you're kind of talking about, is like an anabolic window.
Correct, but there's an actual purpose for getting, especially when the muscles are still, full of blood, and your body to an extent is warm because of the blood flow. You have the ability to get your nutrients where they need to go a lot more efficiently. So instead of, going home and 30 minutes later, that just then putting something into your system.
Was this something that Alex introduced,
Nope.
or?
This is just something that I've come to realize my body adapts really well to, or sorry, reacts really well to. Just because I'm always looking for opportunities to eat and consume throughout my day, and I realize that window right there is just a prime time of when I have nothing, and it's a very important time. And like I said, in terms of just how my body reacts to it, it does very well because it doesn't take a ton off the hunger window. Because then when I get home, I have this. I mean, have I sent you what that picture looks like? What my post gym looks like? It's just a mountain of rice, peas, and kidney beans.
I don't think you sent me it.
Okay, I'll send you a picture later today when I have my next one. But it's it's just a mountain. Like the container is honestly maybe like almost like a square foot. That's how big this container is, and it's just a mountain of food.
Gotcha.
But again, and I've mentioned it in the past, because of my teaching schedule and how little time I actually have during the teaching day to eat, it's tough for me to make meals. So when I was with my coach, I was really struggling to get the actual real food down. So he always suggested I need to drink more calories. I need to drink more calories, and I just never really did it. But now I found a smoothie that I can get down real easy. It's thick as all hell because of how dense it is caloric wise, but I can get it down. And then between the mass gainer at the end of the day and the 2 protein shakes I drink, it's a lot easier on my system to get it in. My last meal of the day is also almost like a stew-based meal, so it's a lot easier for me to kind of get that in as well. So overall, I was just going to say, overall, my body's been reacting to the diet real well and to the supplements real well. And again, in the gym, it's placebo effect, but diet-wise or weight gain-wise, I can't really argue placebo for that.
Gotcha. Okay. Have you considered like blending up whole foods and drinking them?
I've thought about it. I'm not quite there yet. I've seen the, I've seen the videos of I'm gonna blend together 3 Big Mac meals. I'm not there yet, but I'm guessing if I hit another plateau weight wise, so let's say I'm saying it's not placebo effect for the weight gain, but let's say it is, and let's say in 2-3 weeks I plateau again after gaining 7 pounds or whatever, and then I realize that I'm in this again, then I'll start doing that stuff, because I still have my heavy duty big blender that I think I brought it with me down to SC with you guys. It's just this big blender that I used one at the Airbnb, but it's just a bigger one. Like I have my small personal one, my Ninja one that I use for like my individual shakes and whatnot, but I have a big one that can do like what you're suggesting, blending food, like a real big thing, and then throw like 10-12 ounces of either water or milk in with it, and then just close my nose and down it.
Yeah. I was just saying that because that's a strategy a lot of guys take if they have to put in a lot of food. Hunter Labrada posted a video a while ago, like a year ago or some shit now, where because of his digestion was so fucked, for whatever reason it was, I don't remember exactly. His digestion was fucked, so he just started drinking every single meal. So he just blend up like chicken and rice, and he'd put water in there and shit, just so that he can get it down. I think Ronnie might have done that at one point. I know Larry Wheels does it pretty frequently, where he will grind up chicken.
There's famous videos of Ronnie, not famous videos, but the memes, and it's like when I can't even do the quote, but he's got this giant thing in his hand, and you can tell he blended up something.
Yeah, I know he drank a lot of protein powder and would put like Nesquik powder and shit in there because like his body responded like crazy. Like he like people don't realize like the food level that Ronnie was at. Like he was pretty strict, but like his body was so genetically insane that he could pretty much eat anything and be fine. Like every single day, he would go out and eat whatever he wanted, basically for like a whole meal. That people don't talk about that, but that's the reality. Like that's true. I think he talks about it in his documentary. I think it's on Netflix. It's like Ronnie the King or whatever it's called. It's a documentary just about Ronnie and his progression, all of that, and how he got to where he is today. But Yeah, I think he talked about that, how like every single day he would go out to dinner or lunch or whatever it was, and eat whatever he wanted. And there's a couple different restaurants he would pick from usually, and he'd get the same thing a lot of the time. I mean, granted, that's also how it was back in the 70s. Like Arnold and all of them were getting
Yeah.
steaks after working out. They go and get steaks for breakfast or whatever it was. Like, it's
Well, I've been listening to his little audiobook recently, and
yeah,
his autobiography, and he talks about how prior to, oh god, I think it was the 76 Olympia or something like that, he had he did a competition the week before, and there was a week period where he was just hanging. He was eating fish and chips every day.
yeah. I mean, that's
And
just
then he still won.
yeah. They didn't like. You mean like he did that after the show? He ate fish and chips after the show.
Like a week up, like he did a show. I think it was
Oh,
he had a stretch of 3 shows where it was like Mr. Universe, Mr. Olympia, and I'm blanking on what the third one was, but he did the first show, and then there was a week period where he was in like travel mode, and he couldn't like eat the way he wanted to,
okay.
or work out the way he wanted to, and he literally just ate, like airport food for a week, and then he went and
Yeah,
won the Olympia.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there was one year where he won on a technicality because he was the only person competing. People forget that. Like they were like boycotting the show or some shit. He's the only one that showed up, so he got the automatic dub. Like it didn't even matter how this actually happened. People forget this. This actually happened. It was
Do
so
you know what year that
controversial
is?
because, um, let me look it up.
I was
Arnold,
gonna say
um,
the 1980 he won.
1971, I think.
Okay, so his
Yeah,
second
it was
one.
1971. No other bodybuilder competed in the 1971. Like that's such. Dude, imagine that happening today. Like that would
He
be
didn't.
absurd.
He did not mention that in his book.
No, he didn't. He doesn't bring it up. Nobody talks about it. But 1971, he was the only one to compete because it was some sort of like boycott protest thing that all the competitors were doing, and he just like
Yeah.
said fuck it and just showed up anyways. And like he ended up winning. I forget what it was. The prize money for them was $1,000 back in the day. That's probably like 10 grand now. Let me see. So it's supposed to be between 4 athletes: Roy Calendar, Franco Colombo, Sergio Oliva, and Arnold. They all got disqualified. Let me see. That's what it was. So the IFBB said any bodybuilder who participates or goes for guest posing in any other federation will be disqualified from its events. That's
Oh.
so fucked. That's so fucked.
Yeah,
So
but at the time, there was also like 4 big like bodybuilding federations. Like, so people were just
there was
going around trying to make ends meet.
right, and that's the thing is like we're not even like federations in itself. I know it's kind of a tangent, guys, but not even a federation itself. Like there was like only like a couple big shows, and even then, you wouldn't do it for the money. It's like you're competing to compete. Like you're not there to
Yeah.
make money. You're not like the guest posing. They probably got like $100. Like it wasn't like they're not going out of their way to make money. Like guys now do guest posing for like 10 grand, 15 grand. Like Logan Franklin to okay, so this is something that I got from inside knowledge. To have Logan Franklin fly out for a weekend of like guest posing seminars and posing routines and stuff with athletes would have costed someone I know 15 grand. That's a weekend. So like these guys make bank now. The money wasn't there back then. So like they just competed just because of the love of the sport. And they're like IFBB's getting, John or the Weeders and IFBB are all getting up in their fucking panties like, oh, you can't compete in other ones because blah 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 blah.
Well,
It's
they're
like
trying to
there's no
corner the
reason.
market.
Yeah, there was like that's really it. Like you can't have a monopoly on the market. It just doesn't really work that way. But I mean, it is
Yeah.
what it is. So he was the only one who competed just because he wasn't disqualified. So he won regardless of whatever condition he was going to show up in. I didn't
That's
know if that was the one you were talking about or not, but
no. But that's gonna be me showing up for a show and asking for the 6'4" plus division.
yeah, if there ever is one, I think the highest it gets for any show is like 6'2" and up or some shit. Like that's like the highest.
I really, on quite honest, my one of my mini goals in my mind for I set the goal for myself for next summer to step on stage, regardless of how
Yeah.
I look. Just set a tentative goal so that I am constantly working on that. Um, I really want to be, best in my class, so then I can go up for best overall and just tower over the people.
Yeah.
Like, that's quite honestly a goal
It
of mine, just to
happens.
stand there and say, I know, I am taller than you. I control you.
I mean, from what I can remember, at most regional shows I've been to, there might be like one or two guys like right around your height. It's hard to say because they're up on a stage and you're also in the distance. So like the only time you can really tell how tall someone is until they're next to someone.
Yeah.
So like shorter guys who like some one guy I know I've seen could be at a regional show in person. I'm like, oh, he's like 5'8", 5'9", maybe at most. But then on stage, when he's by himself, he looks tall because he's up on the stage and it's just him up there. So you're like looking up at him.
Yeah.
But then when you see him next to another competitor in a higher class, you're like, okay, this guy's short as shit. Like, not that 5'8", 5'9" is short as shit. It's just in comparison to what I thought he looked like on stage, So you do look taller on stage typically. But
Well,
I
that's
think
like I was just
what's
gonna
that?
say that's like the Brian Shaw handing out the
Yes,
Olympia
exactly.
awards.
You don't realize how small Sean Clarita is until you see him next to a big dude. And like
Yeah.
even just like regular body, like not regular, but like the open bodybuilders in the Olympia, if you ever see Sean Clarita next to them, it's like, what the fuck? Like he's so small compared to them. But that's why he's called the giant killer. And that's why like everybody doubted him because he's like in his old footage, I was watching a video. I think it was like a Machiavelli motivation or some shit about Sean Clarita because it was like it said something about like how everybody was telling him he couldn't do it because he was so short. He's like 5'2" or some shit. Like he's a tiny ass dude. But there's a video of him training and no shit. I didn't really laugh, but I was like, that's kind of funny. His chest was like just over the dumbbell rack. I'm like, motherfucker, dude. And this dude's winning 212s. Are you shitting me? I'm like, props to him. Like that's such an accomplishment. Like that's absurd. But yeah, that's why he's called the fucking giant killer, and that's why 212 was like made for him because he could be fucking 212 was like the max he could probably ever get weight wise.
I've
So it's
I've
like
come to really love and appreciate the 212 division. Just see, like,
it's
actually doing research and looking at some of the
yeah,
guys like that are in it now. Like, I've come to really appreciate that division.
it's got a
It's
place.
212 is one, like, for example, it's one that I could never compete in because 212 for
No,
me is like literally 10 more pounds on top of what I have, and I'd
yeah,
look scrawny next to those guys.
yeah,
So it's that I love and appreciate it for like the short kings in my life.
exactly. That's what it's designed for. It's designed for guys like under like 5'8" who want to compete in open, but also like don't want to get outsized like crazy. So like if their max weight is going to be roughly 212 or under when you're on stage, then 212 is what you're built for. That's Sean Clarita's instance. He's talked about competing in men's open, but it's just the level of competition is just a different world. It's not that they're better. It's just simply the size difference. Like Sean Clarita could have a better overall proportions, better package proportionately, but like Big Ramy is going to look so massive next to him. It's like all your eyes are only going to be drawn to Big Ramy. You know what I mean? So it only
Yeah,
makes sense. But so to loop it back, and then I do want to mention something else about the NPC and IFBB. I'm not sure if we talked about it last week. I don't know if we talked about it last week. But one thing I wanted to mention was the 3 pounds you put on. Please consider it might be water weight, not
yeah.
necessarily, but
Well,
it's
I
something.
actually know that it's almost, I'd say, at least if not half, then at least a third of fat weight. I 100% understand that
Yeah,
because
something to
I've
keep in mind.
yeah, no, I completely get that, but I'm at the point where I don't mind that as because if I can dump as much size as I can and then or not dump, but put on as much size as I can regardless of what it is and then hone that down, that's where I'm at
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's been plateauing 200 for quite literally 6 years since I hit 200 in high school. So,
mhm.
7 8 years and then that's where
Yeah.
I've been.
It takes a lot to push through a plateau. I've been there before. The way I call it is, especially with in my instance, where anabolics are involved, what essentially we call it is like a metabolic wall. It's not necessarily a plateau, but just for some reason your body isn't either losing the weight or putting on the weight that you want to put on. So that typically requires some sort of change in the plan, whatever it is. Keto, I was having that issue. We talked about this a million times. Keto, I was having that issue. I just could not break past like 195 or whatever it was. I forget what it was exactly. Just for some reason, I couldn't lose the weight. My BG was still high. Like just something wasn't right. And then it was the prolactin levels. So like sometimes you just need to change the plan. You need to reevaluate what's going on. Once I started taking cabergoline, everything just clicked. I started losing the weight. My BG started going down a bit. And I started getting better results. So like sometimes it's just a little thing here or there that might be holding you back. And that's why I say like, even if you're natural, like still get blood work done on the reg. It's really not too expensive in comparison to other things you could be purchasing. Like it's like $150 for like a full hormone panel and lipid profile. And it's super easy to do. You just drive into like a Quest or a fucking, what's the other big one? The Quest Diagnostics or the
you got no help from me here, man.
There's two big ones. Let me look it up because it's drawing. I'm LabCorp. There it is. Fuck, I could not think of that. So Quest Diagnostics and LabCorp are two of the bigger diagnostic chains out there. They're pretty much everywhere. So Marek Health, MAREK for anybody listening, is the kind of like online clinic-ish that Derek from More Plates, More Dates is helping run with another clinician. So the doctor is the one mainly in charge of everything, but I think Derek is kind of helping run it as a business. They have a full hormone panel. I think it's like $150 or something with a lipid profile. It's the best one I've ever taken. They take very little amounts of blood. And the results are super, super fast. Like it's absurd. It should not be that price, but Derek is really honestly trying to take on big pharma just by himself. So, I think if you're going to do blood work, I think even if it was like a little bit more, like usually I'd spend like 170, 175 on it and they take a lot of blood, but even if it was like $200 to go through Merrick, I'd still do it because I'd be supporting a content creator that I support and also someone who's really taking on big pharma and trying to, make a difference. But anyways, get that done just because you never know what could be standing in your way. And I think that would also benefit you, Christoph, too, as well, because you never know what could be holding you back. Your plateau might be because like your lipid profile is off, like your cholesterol is off, like you got, a bad profile for cholesterol. Like that alone could be enough where you just like, oh, okay. So really I just need to focus on healthier fats and like maybe focusing on, carb partitioning or something like that. And then all of a sudden your life changes. It's the little things like that could drastically make a difference. Guy I know at the gym I go to, who went to a Gold's. It's actually funny that him and I started going to the same gym because of how busy Gold's is. He ran cycles and he never really competed, but he did kind of treat it like he was competing. He did bulking, cutting. He did a prep phase in quotations without stepping on stage. But now he's kind of done because I think he has a kid now and he's just kind of focusing on life and just wants to be healthy. And he still lifts with his girl, I think. And I can't really tell their relationship. It's really weird. I don't know. But it's I can't figure it out. But that's besides the point. He was talking to me about his blood work that he got done and he showed me it. And his total test was like a little over 300 nanograms per deciliter. So part of getting your blood work is you need to be able to read what your blood work means. Really just actually fucking read it like a book. It'll tell you everything you need to know.
Or send it to someone who can read it.
Yeah, exactly. You could send it to us. Send it to hghpodcast1 at gmail.com. And we'll tell you what you probably need to work on, chances are. Within reason. Obviously, we're not experts, but be like, okay, so this is out of whack. So this might be your issue. This could be it, whatever. But his test was like just over 300 nanograms. So the average for men, which is a bullshit average, is between, I think, 300 and 900 nanograms per deciliter. So he was on the lower end, and that's why he felt like shit. And his estrogen was on the higher side. So that's why he felt like shit, because I think his PCT, whatever he did, and cruising for a while just fucked him up. So he's got to figure out what he's got to do. And really, like, I think I'm telling him, I'm just like, dude, just honestly, just get on TRT. That's all you got to do. Like, your life will change. And he's like, yeah, 100%. And he's like, I'll figure it out, but that's pretty much what I'm probably going to do. But yeah, it's just something like that will change your life. And that's why I think there is no shame ever in getting into HRT or TRT at any age. You know, I was in the gym and my total test was around 500 nanograms. And I'm talking like I was 22 when I got that blood work done. Lifting, like, there was no reason for my test to be 500. It should have been way higher. It should have been like upper average or like above average of like over 900 nanograms, but it wasn't. It was borderline. I needed TRT because at my age it didn't make any sense. So there's no shame in it. Your life will change. Sometimes you just need to reevaluate it and take a different approach. So just get it done, see what they say. A lot of time, if you have health insurance, it'll cover it. It would be preventative lab costs or preventative. It's preventative care typically. So just get the lab work done through Merrick Health ideally. But if you have to go through your doctor, you can. And there's also TRT clinics you can go to. But take those with a bucket of salt because some of them are designed for bodybuilders. I know one clinic that's here in Charlotte that's designed for bodybuilders, and you show up, say, hey, I'm low on test. They'll just prescribe you D-ball. Like, it's fucking crazy. So just go to like a actually reputable clinic that doesn't focus on bodybuilders and see what they have to say. So that could be the other thing too, why you could have plateaued, Christoph. It could be something that you're not even noticing unless you saw it on a blood marker. So
yeah.
Something to consider. And then to loop it back to what's new this week, I think it's this week is new. I don't know if we talked about it last week, but the IFBB and NPC have introduced weight caps. They're going to be introducing weight caps to men's physique.
Very nice.
So that's really exciting.
You mentioned it last week.
Okay, yeah. So
you didn't go in depth, but you mentioned it.
Yeah. So basically, I read a bit more about it. And essentially what it's going to do is what they're doing for the past 3 years. They said they've been taking all of the shows that they've run statistical analyses on men's physique classes, the average weights of who won, the looks that they're looking for, stuff like that, basically building a database. And then from there, they're able to build a weight range for men's physique classes. So they're going to treat it kind of like classic physique where at a certain height or class or whatever it is, you're going to have a certain weight range. So like, let's say like 5'8" and up, it might be like 180 to like 195 or some shit like that. Like, I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but there's going to be a weight range where you have to be within that range in order to qualify for the show. That's why there's weigh-ins at shows. It doesn't matter for men's physique right now because there's no weight to weigh in at, but typically you go a day or two before the show, weigh in, and whatever weight you are at that weigh-in, as long as you're within the range, you qualify for the show. So now it's possible to be disqualified based off of weight, which has happened to classic physique competitors pretty frequently because they'll try to be on the upper end of the weight range and end up missing it by like, 0.1 or 0.2 pounds and end up being disqualified. So you want to be like probably ideally you want to be as close to that upper weight cap as possible, typically, depending on your height. And then, but really you want to probably give yourself like a half pound, in my opinion, half pound of like comfort. Just be like, okay, this is what I'm aiming for weight. So that way I'm at least qualified. And then you could do a carb up cycle to get back up in weight a little bit. If you need to kind of, flush your system out in order to get that weight. So they're going to be introducing that. Anybody who's upset about it you don't deserve to be competing in the first place. That's my opinion. I think it's great to have a weight cap. I think that if you're upset that it's hindering your size or something like that, then you should not be competing in men's physique. Men's physique is going for a specific look. And if you're too heavy for these weight caps that they've been studying for years now, then it's because you don't have that look. So if you're upset about it, it's because you don't have the look they're looking for. So it's really exciting for those of us that do compete in men's physique and do go for that look, because it's just going to make the competition a bit more even across the board. Not necessarily fair, because they don't really reward guys who are over in size, but the guys who are also going to be hurt by this are guys who like might have an overpowering muscle group that could increase their weight. For instance, Chris Barr, which we've talked about before, his arms are massive, which are like, he's like borderline classic size. So he might have an issue with his weight cap because he's on the heavier side when it comes to men's physique just because of his arms. His torso, his trunk, his back, they all fit the men's physique look. His arms doesn't. So he might not actually fit into the weight cap anymore when they introduce it to the NPC and the IFBB. So I'm really excited about it because I think this should have been in place for a long time now. Granted, men's physique has really only been around for like a little over 10 years. It's not been that long, but it's only getting bigger and leaner. So I think now what this is going to do is promote competition to focus on the leaner side of things rather than the bigger side of things. So that way you can come in, dice to the gills, got a specific look, and you fit the look that they're going for. You kind of, it's more uniform along the height range. The next thing I really want them to do is to standardize the posing drastically. I really, really want them to really nail down the posing because there's two fucking poses.
Arms up at their shoulders.
Literally, like there's two fucking poses and everyone's doing them differently. Like what the fuck is going on? Like there's this one dude who's competing now and he's straight on. Like he's not even like twisted to like shrink his waist. He's straight on with the judges. I'm like, you're not even doing the fucking pose. Like it's not even remotely close. Like I can understand doing it on your hip or, you know, having your arm dangle, but like at least stand properly for the pose. So like I think that they also need to lock that down, and they also need to standardize the shorts as well. I think they need to decide what they want in the shorts because the board shorts have only gotten leaner and shorter each year. So they started off as board shorts back in 2010, 11, 12. They started off as baggy board shorts that went past your knee that you'd wear to the beach. That was in style at the time. That's what you'd wear as a regular ass bathing suit. But now the shorts are like, my shorts that I got, they're 28s. They like don't even come close to my knee. They're probably like 7-inch inseams, maybe. They're a few inches off from my knee. They show my teardrop. They show my quad sweep. You know, you look at like Aaron Banks, and his shorts are like halfway down his thigh because the dude's fucking tall. So I think they also need to standardize the shorts as well. Classic, I think they need to standardize as well because if you look back 4 years ago, they were wearing borderline boxer briefs, but now they're wearing like posing trunks that men's open would wear. So it's like slowly gotten smaller and smaller. So like, let's go ahead and decide what we're going to use. I think like not this recent Olympia. I think the year before that or the year before that one. So like 2022, 2021 was like perfect. It wasn't quite boxer briefs and it wasn't quite posing trunks. It was like kind of in between, had a little thickness to it, but it gave it like kind of like it was like a Speedo. You're kind of wearing like a Speedo almost. I think that's a bit better than posing trunks because posing trunks is for men's open or 212. But I don't think they need to be wearing the boxer briefs that they're wearing like 2020, 2019. But that's a whole other conversation.
No. So men's physique, you're gonna wear jeans up there. Men's classic, you're gonna wear Fruit of the Loom. We're gonna standardize it with Fruit of the Loom, and then men's open, you got nothing. You're up there nude.
Yeah, you're just a sock.
And whoever's testicles are not as small as like a as like a almond wins.
They need to measure. They get like one of those like calipers, and they need to measure each testicle. Nope, sorry, it's too small. You're not qualified. Too
small. you too much. Sorry.
Yeah, you took way too much shit. Your testicles are way too small. He's like, well, my dick looks bigger.
Nick Walker, my goodness, he must have just nothing down there.
Who knows, man? It might be the exact opposite. They may be swollen as shit. I have no idea. Injecting straight into your testicles. Imagine that.
Like, instead of pinning in your ass, you're pinning in your
right in your fucking gonad, dude. Right in the dick. But yeah, so that's the current update. We don't know. I don't know if we know exactly what the weight ranges are going to be. Let me see if they announced it yet. Oh my gosh, I can't fucking type right now.
I can never type, so it's all good.
Let me see. So yeah, so they haven't, it doesn't seem like they've announced the weight ranges yet. Yeah, so it says IFBB Pro League to introduce height and weight restrictions in the men's physique division. This also includes the NPC. The NPC and the IFBB work very, very close together, and I honestly would not be surprised if they're the same owners and same people running it. They've had great success with classic with it because they do have like a classic look. Like, when you're looking at a classic dude.
Yeah.
So as far as let me see. Yeah, so as far as like the weight ranges, nobody really knows yet, but some people do have a good point that the only issue that people are seeing to happen, let's see, 3 times. Okay. The biggest thing that this guy was mentioning that might happen is that because of these weight ranges, guys are going to stop training legs so that they can save the weight from their legs and put it towards their upper body.
I get that.
That is a fair critique of the weight ranges. So maybe there's got to, that's the problem though, is that like they say, oh, we don't judge legs. So you could show up and have no legs and have a crazy upper body and win, even though you don't really look that good because your legs aren't there. But like you can't really necessarily, judge their legs because that's been announced that you can't. There's no points. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. NPC and IFBB Pro League Vice President Tyler Mannion. I don't know. They shouldn't. They should introduce it to NPC and amateur shows, I think, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
so
I mean, that gives it a conformity if you introduce it all around.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens with that. I think it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see what they say about like what the weight ranges are going to be, and seeing what that's going to produce out of it. I mean, only time is going to tell. But I think it's a good thing personally. Overall, I think it's a good thing. There could be those guys who don't train their legs and they might get penalized. It might be like, even though they don't judge it, it's just based off the proportions. Biasly, they might be like, he doesn't really fit the look. Even though even though we can't judge legs, he doesn't have good proportions. He doesn't look right. It looks wonky. It's not appealing. It's not aesthetic, which could play a role into it. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens. But anyways, that'll take time. Quick update from me, and then we'll get into the main topic for today. Is I'm on my water cut now. Peak week has officially started, so I'm 7 days out from the show, so it's peak week. Water cut has started. So it's vitamin C Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, increasing the amount of vitamin C each day, and then spreading it out. So like I think I take like 4,000 milligrams on Friday, so I gotta like kind of pace myself with that. Don't take 4,000 at once. You kind of pace yourself. But as far as the water goes, today is 2.5 gallons, and then every day until Friday, I decrease it by a quarter of a gallon. And then Saturday, I think it's just sips of water, maybe just so that I have water in my system. But that's about it. You don't want to have any water besides that. So that's currently where we're at. I'm down in weight. Definitions coming in, vascularity is coming in, and I am fully in suffering mode. I can tell you that for sure. Just water and black coffee now. No energy drinks, no pre-workout. My pump is solely coming from pink Himalayan salt, but like any pump that I get is more noticeable now with more vascularity. So it looks like I have more of a pump than I do, which is cool. But pink Himalayan salt is like the only thing that increases my blood flow now. Black coffee, just so I have caffeine in my system, pre-workout. So I'll just have like an iced coffee with some equal sweetener in it. But we're trying to take out as much artificial flavoring as possible. And then I can't have any seasonings that have additional salt. So I got my reliability now is on mustard and Mrs. Dash, which is a seasoning brand. You can buy at pretty much any grocery store, which is all salt free. So I got like yesterday I got like their chili lime, which is more lime than chili. It's like 90% lime, but it's pretty good. But yeah, so it's just, I can't have Montreal steak seasoning now. I gotta cook my steak bland. But we're getting there, boys. We're getting there. Saturday show's coming up, but I think really my coach sent an audio message. I think it was Wednesday. or Saturday. I forget exactly what day it was. It was after weigh-in, and he kind of called me out a little bit. He was like, I could tell that like we needed to kick you in the butt. Like you need to put a fire under your ass because it was getting kind of monotonous. We're living the lifestyle of a like long-term bodybuilder where for like a couple of years it was just slight bulk, slight cut, slight bulk, slight cut, and never really stepping on stage. And it just got monotonous where I was like, there was no real goals in mind besides like, all right, let's put on some weight, let's lose some weight, let's maintain, let's, you know, recomp for a couple of weeks. Like it was just like it wasn't like any harsh goals in mind, any timelines, any deadlines. So we went into the show. He kind of was like, he's like, I knew that you needed a fire lit under your ass to really get everything back in check. So this show coming up isn't necessarily probably going to be like the main focus. We're going into it knowing that we're probably going to lose the overall now that we know where my body's at. I'm hoping to win class at least, but realistically Excalibur, which is in August, is going to be my show to win, which I've said before, but he was like, yeah, really, we're going to have like another 2 months to like really dial you in and get you in Excalibur. And like when I show up for Excalibur, I'm going to show up with like no body fat. Water is going to be out of my system. Like we're going to show up completely fucking dialed in, like ready to take that sword home. There's a sick ass sword you get in Excalibur. So like we're ready to take that sword home, get that national qualifier. This one coming up is going to be kind of part of prep. I think, but I am looking forward to stepping on stage at least. It's just, this shit sucks, man. I'm totally in suffering mode and it's torture. It is not fun, but we're pushing through. We're getting there. And the show's right around the corner. So
I was going to say there. the goal that's been there for a long time is now within sight. So while the suffering's there, you got within grasp. So
yeah, I'm starting to dream about the show. Yeah, it's I'm sleeping and dreaming about the show now. Like I had a dream last night about the show because I'm 7 days out. So we're gonna probably do a slight carb up cycle Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Chances are, I don't know yet exactly what days. Probably not gonna train Friday, maybe Thursday. I'm not sure yet. We'll see what days I'm not training. And then show up for the show on Saturday.
Are you allowed to say what music you're bringing on? Or do you even get music on what you're doing?
There's no music you get to pick for men's physique. You're only out there for about 15 seconds when you're doing the finals, just because there's only 2 poses. But they play music though throughout the entire division. So it's like rock. It's like some sort of like heavy metal almost. That's like instrumental. There's no singing or anything, I think, but it's good music. Like they don't pick like bad music that's like opera or some shit. You know, they're picking like good music that fits the vibe.
Hi, yes, I'd like to request Pitbull playing while.
Can I have Mozart or Bach?
Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, walking out. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. One of the guys that I was worried about as far as competition goes, he decided to drop out. I'm really disappointed in a way because I figured he was going to beat me.
Well, you wanted the competition, yeah.
Right. So it's like in one way, it's kind of sad because he got decimated in his show. He got 15. He got 5th out of 11th, which granted he competed in a big show. So there was more competition at that regional than this one that I'm going to. But he was like, men's physique isn't really where he wants to be, which is most guys' situation. They want to be in classic now. It's just a fad. So he's like, he wants to take some time off and put on size for classic and just decided to stop competing in men's physique entirely. Which I understand. I get it. I get where he's coming from, especially because he's probably like me where he's very competitive and taking 5th out of 11th would suck. If I got 5th out of 11th, I'd be fucking peeved. So like, I get it. We're very competitive and it does hurt to lose at really anything. I hate losing at anything. It sucks, but you gotta just push through and persevere. And perseverance within the face of adversity is really going to prove who wants it the most. And if you really any of the best bodybuilders in the world, what they did when they lost, they went to the judges and said, "Hey, what can I improve upon? What was the reason that I lost?" And then you don't really, they won't tell you how you compare to other people. They'll just tell you what your flaws were. And then you improve upon them. You know, if I show up and they'll say condition in your lower belly needs to be more more dialed in and you held a little bit of water. That was the reason why you got 3rd instead of 1st or whatever. Like, all right, cool. So we know now to be dialed in for the next show. That's the thing we got to work on. Or, your arm size is not quite there. It's not your biggest hindering or whatever, like whatever it is, So you got to just use it as a learning experience to move on into the next show and improve upon your weaknesses and go to win. So that's the plan here, is that most likely going to lose, chances are, the overall. But if I do, I get to find out what the issue was, and then we can address it going into Excalibur, which is about 6 weeks after this show coming up. So we'll really be able to get dialed in.
Plus, you get to channel your old like Sir Arthur vibes when you go to Excalibur.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be able to bring in my English heritage.
Well, I was gonna say the meme of Mike O'Hearn on the horse. You gotta just ride in on a horse when you go to this thing.
I was telling someone that I'm competing in the Excalibur, and they're like, "Is at the gym?" And they're like, "Oh, make sure you bring in the sword when you win it, because it's a massive sword. It's not. It's not a small sword.
I mean, it's a legit weapon too. You're gonna have to clear that with the gym."
Yeah, for real. I don't even know if it's like sharpened. It might not be.
Hey, can I bring in a giant melee weapon? Well, excuse me, what did you say?
Yeah, repeat that. I don't think I heard you properly. I don't remember. Let me see if it's. I'm pretty sure it's Excalibur. Why am I drawing a blank?
I mean, it would make sense that the Excalibur you get a sword.
Yeah, exactly. It's named after the damn sword. So, yeah, and at South Carolina NPC Excalibur, August 12th in Charleston, South Carolina. So that's the one I'll be going to. It's hosted by Solid Attitude, I guess, is the host or the organization running it. Let me see. I'm trying to find where the fucking. Let me see. CNPC Excalibur. We can register? Interesting. But yeah, so it's a big sword. I don't remember. I remember seeing it somewhere. I just forget where. But yeah, so that'll be fun. I'm excited for that one because that's the one we're really going for.
Yeah, and I remember you saying that you're probably going to get to 90%, but this Excalibur one you're going to be locked in at 100 or near 100.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're hoping like 85, 90%, which we're getting there for sure. Abs are way more defined now than ever. Everything's more defined now than ever, and we still have another week to go. And this week is going to be the harshest week. So I'm really going to make the most progress in this week coming up. It's going to be daily changes. So we should be able to get to 85, 90%, no problem. But then Excalibur is going to be 100% for sure. So, that'll be fun. I'm really excited to see what I would look like at 100%. So we'll see.
And that's 100% now. Like, it's not even going to be 100% a year from now either. It's 100% now.
Yes, it'd be 100% based off the physique that I have now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it only gets better. Like,
yep. So, this one has a true novice, a novice, masters, and open. So open class C is what I'll compete in, which is 5'10" and up. There's open class B, which is 5'7" to 5'10", and then open class A is 5'7" and under. But there's a novice, which is, so if I don't win my class, I can compete in novice, which is you've competed, but you've never placed first in class at another NPC show. So hypothetically, if I do lose class in both true novice and open at this show, then I can compete in novice B and open class C, which is 5'8" and over for novice B. But we'll have to see how much that's going to be. Not sure quite yet if I'm going to lose my class or not, but we're going to wait on it.
Mamba mentality. There is no losing.
Yeah, I'm going to go into it aiming for the win. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm going to still try to win. But I'm not going to, it's not going to be the end of the world if I don't, because this is not the one that we're fully gunning for. It's okay to lose this one. This isn't like the Olympia or something like that I'm aiming for. It's not one show. It's not one shot. We got another shot in August. So that's the plan right now.
Hell yeah, man.
So to continue into kind of what we talked about today, which is USA versus European bodybuilders and the federations, really. So can you give us a little introduction on what your thoughts were?
Yeah, I mean, this stems from, I mentioned it earlier, and I talk to Paul about it all the time, but got into audiobooks, and so I picked up Arnold's autobiography that he wrote, and so I've been this whole conversation that we're going to talk about today stems from this. It's something that I texted Paul about, but essentially, I'm someone with a German heritage, like Germanic background, and so I could relate to a lot of what he says in the book, but essentially he made an argument in one of his chapters that maybe it wasn't based on placement of shows. So obviously, like if you look at modern history for the Olympia or like Universe, any of that, even the Arnold, it's dominated by US bodybuilders, like in modern history. So I'm talking like the past 20, 30 years. But you go earlier than that, it kind of wavers all over the place. But the point being is that the argument came from that in the gym world, so not even bodybuilding or lifestyle or anything, just gym as a whole, people from a European background just have a hardiness and basically a tenacity that is not found within the average American lifter. And I tend to kind of agree with that because obviously I know that I can get down in the dumps mentally and then I don't want to lift or do anything. But when I'm in there and there's no quit in me, and obviously I won't call out anybody, but Paul and I have talked about it in the past with even people we know who we try and bring to the gym, but there's quit in them. And it's not something that I ever have within me when I'm in the gym. Like even if I have no motivation, I'm in there and there's no quit because I just have that drive within me. And you know, I'm from the US. I'm not saying I'm international by birth, but with my, dual citizenship and my background historically and
Wait, you
all
said you
that.
have dual citizenship?
Yeah, I have dual citizenship with Germany.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's new information for me. That's cool. When did you get that? Because you were born here.
Yeah. I mean, I think I had it since birth because I got grandfathered in from my mother. So
how did that work? Because you were born here, right?
Yep. USA,
Okay.
baby. But I
So,
take a lot of pride in my German background. I think
but
it
how did you?
was your first when you have a person who immigrated to the United States, your first generation following that gets dual citizenship if they choose to have it.
I mean,
So
why
my
not?
mother, obviously being a first generation to the States, um, her first round of kids, so myself, my older sister, and my younger brother all have dual citizenship just from bloodline, just from being there.
Yeah.
And even though I wasn't born there, might have been consummated there. I'm not sure, but or conceived there. But
Constant. Yeah, you got
yeah,
eaten.
consummated. Yeah, wrong word. But the point being that I got the dual citizenship just from being blood related to my mother.
Yeah.
And so, but I do take a lot of pride because a lot of my lifestyle, a lot of my cultural things that I do, and especially nutritionally growing up, like it was all Germanic. And so I take, I loop myself in with European guys. And I just see that in the gym. And again, this is a general statement. I'm not saying this is true across the board. I'm saying this as a general statement based on anecdotal data that I've seen, as well as, what I've listened to in Arnold's book. But generally speaking, there's almost like a quit. There's almost like a wall that people don't want to push through from the American side of things. And obviously that doesn't apply like to guys like you, Paul, obviously, because you're, I mean, balls to the wall. You know what you're doing, and you don't have any quit in you in the gym. But there's just a generalized, lack of pushing through barriers that shouldn't be pushed through in American people that I've noticed. And I don't know if that comes from, the way our lifestyle is here in the States, where everything is more or less everything is given to us. Like we work for stuff like to make money, but we can just buy whatever we want. We don't have to really grind out anything ourselves. Whereas overseas, it's very, very different lifestyle wise. Um, so I think it might come from that. But overall, and I agree with Arnold in this argument, I'm not going to say the word on air, but he calls Americans very, very soft And I kind of agree with that. And again, in a very generalized state, because obviously, guys like you, Paul, you're not soft in the gym. So I'm not saying that. It's in a generalized state. And then, I mean, even taking that a step further, I would open it up to more international instead of just Europe, like European, because a lot of the dudes that I know that come from the African countries, those dudes are, I mean, there's nothing
Africa's a
taken
different
for granted with
animal.
them. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that's a
are
whole other world.
absurd. So there's nothing taken for granted, and I think that's where a lot of this comes from, because here in the States we're able to take so much for granted, and if that's what you grew up with your entire life and then you correlate that with your gym ethic, it just kind of goes hand in hand. Whereas if you grew up having to grind for everything, you know obviously I didn't grow up like poor, but we had to work for things. And that being said, like, transitioning that into the gym, there's a work ethic that's applied that I just don't see. And that's why, like, my own lifting partners, like, I the dude that I've lifted with, my soul, like, if I had a soulmate, I guess you could say, in terms of lifting partner, it's this dude. And he's like just from Albania. Like, he is not American at all. He's first generation to the States. Like, that is my guy when it comes to lifting. And all my friends are obviously US born outside of that. And I try lifting and there's just a quit. I want to keep pushing through a barrier, but there's a quit in some other people. And I don't particularly enjoy lifting with people like that. And again, it's not to call out anybody, but it's just something that I've noticed and anecdotally have seen in the gym as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so when you were saying USA versus Europe, I thought you were talking about just like bodybuilding federations in general and like the state of bodybuilding versus each continent.
Well, that's why I led with, in modern history, past 20, 30 years, it's US dominated. And I don't shy away from that. I fully understand that. And that also has to do with, how accessible it is. Like, all the major, or not all, the primary amount of major shows are here in the States. And whether people can even get here is another thing. Like, the whole Hadi Chopin situation that happened for a while. Because he just couldn't get a visa to get over here. And so there's things like that factor into it. But I certainly think that there is just something about American lifting that isn't the same.
Yeah, my opinion is, I think...
also, I'm going to say, I say that as I'm wearing an American flag hat.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I'm very proud to be an American, 100%. And I'll always believe that we're the greatest country in the world. I think in just the way that, in many different ways, really, honestly. But that's also not to say that we have our own flaws. And one of our flaws is, we're a melting pot. We are truly the most diverse country in the world by a long shot. It's not even close. So you're going to get this melting pot of different cultures and different lifestyles. And typically what happens is, what's happened in the US's case is that a lot of people have kind of associated physical hard work as something that's not needed necessarily, especially with everybody pushing for college and white collar jobs. It's seen as kind of almost like frowned upon in a way. Like blue collar jobs are almost frowned upon now. You almost see like construction workers as less than other people, which isn't the case. And
which is wild, because not only are they physically more dominant, but they also make more money. Like 99% of construction people make more money than regular.
Yeah, they make,
like, white
especially
collar.
if they're part of a union. If they're part of a union, they can make some good money. And obviously, blue collar jobs are a lot of it's about how many years you put in. So the more years you put in to that career, absolutely, the more you make. But the other thing we need to consider too is, with Arnold's statements, is that there is a very large difference between his generation and our generation. So
I agree.
He sees it as, like, he's seeing it from the US's standpoint, but a lot of first world countries are in the same place that we are, where instant gratification is what's desired because of social media and technology. TikTok is one of the biggest culprits of this, where when you don't get that small dopamine hit from a good video, you just keep scrolling until you find another one. It's that instant gratification. There's no effort put into it in order to receive that, that dopamine, that gratification, where something like physical labor, something like physical fitness, and even mental health rate at that point is not really put in a lot of effort in order to get there. When it comes to like mental health, there's a lot of things a lot of people can do that will help bring about a better lifestyle. But really where we're at now is just prescribing shit for everything. A kid can't sit still in class now in school, and like if they can't sit in class still, they get prescribed something at the doctor. It's like maybe it's not the kid that's broken, maybe it's the system that's broken. And that's the reality, is that it's not necessarily the people that are the issue, it's the system that's the issue. And it promotes less and less physical activity. So I think that's kind of where Arnold's coming from, is that his generation, there was no instant gratification. You had to work for everything. And he's also coming from Austria, where his parents were farmers. So it was a different lifestyle even for him in comparison to a lot of the US when he came over here. He moved to Venice, California, right off of Austria, I think it was Venice. And he's like looking at these dudes who are lifting on the beach, and girls are checking them out, and they're getting all these chicks and whatnot, where he just had to like not really fight literally, but like basically fight his way out of Austria in order to make it over to the
He did have to fight because he had to be in the service.
Oh, I didn't realize he had to serve.
It's a mandatory thing over in Austria, and I can't recall in Germany, but it's a mandatory like 2-3 year enlistment right out of when you turn 18.
I know Israel does that too. It's a minimum of 2 years in Israel to serve. I get it. I don't know. It wouldn't be the worst thing if we had that here. I think it would kind of put a lot of people in their place and teach a lot of lessons. I think it would be overall beneficial, but then again, I also don't want. There's a lot of people out there that should not be serving in the military, or should not have remotely a firearm in their hands. So that's a whole other issue. But so you have to get his way over here, and he's looking at these dudes on the beach, and he's like, wow, these guys have it nice. This is granted, he still had to work really hard. He still had all of his jobs and acting classes and whatever, but that's the state of the world that we currently live in. And that's why he sees us as soft. It's just not necessarily, in my opinion, it's not necessarily the US. I think it's just in general, first world countries are now soft in comparison to what he grew up in, which is the reality. But the other thing to consider too is that each generation is supposed to set up the next generation to have an easier life than the previous generation. So typically what happens is like our generation's goal is to make the next generation have an easier life than we did. So it progressively gets easier, and we can progressively progress as a species, as a country, as a culture.
And the unfortunate side of that is that that's now waning away from physical attributes and masculinity.
Essentially, yes. It is becoming a problem now because we've progressed. It's almost like it's like an elastic band. It's just snapping back in the opposite direction, and it's resulted in crazy shit. I mean, you just look at social media now; it's absurd. I wouldn't even get too far into it, but that's why like. Even just the gym itself, like less than like 5% of people, whatever it is, go to the gym on a regular basis, like more than 4 times a week or something. I think it's like 20% overall go at least once a week. I think the other 80% don't go at all. And that's a sad reality that we live in. It's not even that necessarily need to go to the gym in particular, but like really participating in physical activity on a regular basis is really important for physical and mental health. But with the state of today, I can't really necessarily say whether or not the US is in a better position than the EU is, just because the EU has much better health standards than the US does. The FDA is fucking corrupt as shit and is a joke. Most of the shit that we have that the EU has banned, we still have allowed. So you talk to anybody who's been to the EU and they'll tell you that they feel amazing while they're there, and it's because the food is much healthier. You're not eating like insane amount of preservatives in bread, for instance. I mean, everything's like way, way healthier. They don't have corn syrup over there. That's outlawed. Like there's so much shit that just isn't in the diet of the average European that is in the diet of the average American and Australian for that matter. Australia is in the same place as we are essentially. And that's why we have such health problems here, is because of all this bullshit that's in everyone's diet, and focusing on the wrong things. We've talked about this before, but focusing on the wrong shit like artificial sweeteners and stuff, people are like, oh, that's so bad for you, but let me go ahead and go over here and drink my corn syrup. It's like the focus isn't correct. And I would love if we can adapt the same food standards that the EU has. It would be amazing. But that's never going to happen because the FDA is corrupt. It's all bought by large food corporations, and they don't really actually care about the health of the American citizen. All they really care about is satisfying the people who pay for their funding. That's all that matters to them. So we're never going to get to that point. It's never going to be the reality. The only way we could is if each state is treated like a country in the EU, where each state is its own country, and we all contribute individually towards a federation like that. That's how the EU works. They have governing bodies that look over multiple countries. But when it comes to the actual individual countries, like they have much more power than these governing bodies, but they also have to follow the rules of these governing bodies. So the UN, United Nations, essentially, is an example of that.
If each state over here becomes a individualized like institution, then you can bet your sweet pippy I'm coming down south. I'm not I'm not letting I'm not letting what's going on up here take over completely.
Yeah. I mean, that would never happen, but that's the only way we could possibly get there, unless we had a full reconstruction of the FDA and just abolish it completely. Which at that rate, we might as well abolish like pretty much every other organization that's out there too, including the FBI and CIA and shit. Like just getting rid of all of it and just replacing it with something new. I think we should definitely do that at some point, but that'll never happen probably. It's just a problem we're going to always be facing, and that's, I think, the bottom line for what Arnold is saying at the end of the day. So it's the world we live in. We just have to deal with it the best way we can. And we're outliers in the sense that we're an extremely niche part of fitness in itself, which fitness already is relatively niche. So it's hard for us to really explain what it's like to other people, but we can't waste our breath too much on it because we're never going to get it across to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more so I'm on the forefront in this argument in the sense that I get a lack of enjoyment lifting with, people that I know compared to, the one lifting partner that I've met that can actually push through especially on like leg day, push through like that pain barrier that so many people just stop at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously that comes to dedication too, and understanding a goal. Like I have a goal to step on stage like next year. Like I have something in mind, and he has his own goals of wanting to look the way he wants to look. And some people just don't have those goals, which is another thing. Like this whole mindset of going to the gym to get healthier, but nobody actually envisions what healthier looks like. And so they just go aimlessly and absentmindedly into the gym. And then you get people who are actually goal driven and know like, hey, I want to increase my biceps by like 2 centimeters by the end of not next month, like 2 months from now. Like that's a goal in mind with an actual understanding of what that goal looks like. And so having that, I think, applies to the conversation as well, because like I set these goals in my mind before every lift. Every lift is tiered towards something. And if I don't have a goal, then I'm not going to lift, because otherwise, like, your mental side of things is a huge part of how you make gains too. And so I set these goals, and it's just how I was raised with this kind of lifestyle, and, raised super German, even though I was living here in the States. So I think that's just why I make this argument that, not saying anyone's better than anyone else, but saying that the work ethic is dominant compared to the, take for granted lifestyle that the States has.
Yeah, I mean, I think also, I think one of the biggest things too is culture plays a big role within a family, like the family culture.
Mm.
What is taught to kids from the parents plays a big role into how they go about even just training in the gym. Because most people can't really bring themselves to failure. Excuse me, to failure. It's just not in their mind. It just they can't really compute it. Um, pushing yourself like that. Some people just it's just not part of them. So like that kind of plays into it. Ethnicity also plays a big role as well. The base foundation of people's different DNA and where they're from plays a big role. I mean, I'm kind of a mixture of like Northeastern Europe, English, and French. Um, so like how I works a little bit differently than how someone who has Eastern Asian descent. So that I think also plays a big role. So there's a lot more to it than simply, it's not. There's a lot of gray. There's a lot of nuance when it comes to how different countries and how different people in different countries react to uh, adversity. I guess adversity or really hard work. If you look at a place like, I would argue even that, like on average, I would argue that the average American is a harder worker than most European workers because of the way government is set up. There's a lot more um, uh, infrastructure for essentially assistance within the EU countries. It's just how they work. They're leaning more socialist. Not that they all are socialist, but they're leaning more in that direction than we are. So there's a bit more assistance in general life in those countries than there is here.
See, I push against that because the amount of people that we have here who just have manipulated the system to on like food stamps or EBT or any of that and or unemployment and literally just choose not to go back. And that's not like a small percentage either. That's like I think I saw a percentage that like 23% of Americans post COVID are choosing not to work. Like an
I don't
absurd amount.
I don't know how that is correct, just because I know poverty is like, I think it's like 15% or something.
Yeah.
15%
But
is
it's
under the.
it's both. That's my point. We
Okay.
have both.
Yeah. I
People
mean, the
people
other
who have
thing.
figured out how to manipulate it and people who haven't figured out how to manipulate it.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing you got to consider too is that each state is a little bit different. So there are more systems set up in Massachusetts for that than versus like Texas. So I think it also depends on geography as well within the US. And also our population is so much higher than any other country in the EU for that matter. So that's another thing to consider. But I'm just saying, like on average, especially pre-COVID, I would definitely argue that the average worker, the average employed person in the U.S. Is a harder worker than that in the EU. That's just my opinion, and it's also comes down to leadership hierarchy and how leadership is driven. A lot of EU countries, the leadership style in the EU is a lot of kind of like there's like two sides of it. You're going to have like the really high ups. This is something I've read about. You're going to have the really high ups who are just like really telling people what to do, but then like middle management and employees are all kind of like level playing field. So there really isn't no like, there's bosses and then there's like people who just have different titles. Really was what it comes down to. So like that's a little bit different than here, where here it's more of like a linear structure. It's more like this person reports to this person, who reports to this person, who reports to this person, and there's like a clear chain. Obviously each country is going to vary. I think Sweden has a different leadership style where it's like you have like teams of people and then managers will pop in and out as needed. So their job is solely managing the team, where here managers a lot of the time have jobs on top of managing people when they aren't managing people. So I think leadership also plays a big role here. Military wise, I would no military comes even remotely close to us, in my opinion. Like it's not even remotely close. Um, no country comes close to our military, and I would put my life in the hands of the U.S. military every single time. But then again, the quality of the person joining military is typically higher than people who don't. Like it's like you're going to typically see a better people in the military a lot of the time, harder workers in the military than people who aren't in the military on average, I would say. But that's a whole different world as far as fitness goes, training, all of that. It's just, I think a lot of it just comes strictly down to the instant gratification that people just want. People just need that instant gratification. They need those constant dopamine hits. And when they don't get it after a couple weeks of hard work, they quit because it's like, what's the point? I don't see any results yet. And it's like, we haven't put enough time in yet. You have to put in the time. And it's like, oh, you look crazy, dude. Like you look amazing. It's like, well, it's taken me 4 years to get here or whatever. Like it's like, it takes a lot of time to get to a certain point and people don't want to put in that time. But at least you and I know is that the way I try to explain it and the way it worked for me was that it's a lifestyle. It kind of becomes part of you and people need to get to that point. It takes a while, but when it becomes part of you, it's hard. You could never really drop it. Like even when I'm retired from bodybuilding and done bodybuilding, I'm still going to train. I'm still going to go to the gym. It might be like 4 times a week or something, just kind of maintain, but I'm still going to train. I still love what I do. It's a part of who I am now. But people don't want to get to that point where it is a lifestyle, where it is part of who they are. It's too long. It takes too long. So it's just the world we live in. It just sucks. I wish we could
It's
change.
like that old, not old, but that Tate Aiden Ross little segment they had where Aiden Ross says like, "What's the fastest way to get abs?" And Tate, not not from the U.S., says, "Why should abs be easy? Why should you want to get it the fast way? You should want to work towards this." And Ross is just kind of sitting there baffled, and like that's like the mindset that I'm kind of referring to. But the military thing that you brought up, like U.S. military folk, the gym things and fitness things that got posted out of there, wild. Those dudes have drive like no one else.
Yeah, I mean that's
Like the lieutenant, squatting 6 plates and then going and like doing it like a tour. Like, are you kidding me?
yeah, I mean, the military, I know people who've been in the military and have used anabolics and they'll talk about where like it's it's very much like don't ask, don't tell. And it's like it's so like widely used in the military, it's crazy. So like that's why you got these fucking units in the military. Like they'll join as scrawny kids and come out as a unit.
Yep.
Just because they're using anabolics, and especially in other countries, it's so easy to get anabolics. Like even Mexico, you can go down to Mexico and just get like anabolic steroids for like almost nothing. So it's definitely a different world than the average civilian life. You talk to anybody in the military and they'll tell you it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting to see that. And there's been photos I've seen of people um, like there's like a dude walking through a barracks and somebody is like, thank God he's on our side. I'm like, this dude's on copious amounts of anabolic. Like this dude's got to be on crazy amount of D-ball. Like he looks fluffy as fuck. But that's just how it is. It's just um, it's that's how military is. I don't know how what else to add to that, but yeah, it's interesting. It's different than what people assume. People assume that the military is strict on drug use, on keeping all of that shit out, but it's not the reality. They really just don't care. They don't care enough, at least. So it's interesting. It's kind of funny to hear more about it when I talk to people about it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that bringing it now to like the to the bodybuilding side of things, this is where the U.S. dominates in terms
Yeah.
of bodybuilding wins and who's taking home the trophies and everything. It's just absolutely dominated by U.S. people.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and I think that's just the kind of like the change of what bodybuilding looked like, because bodybuilding wasn't that big back in early on. I'm talking like 60s, 70s. Like in the States it wasn't huge here, but now it's kind of shifted where it's bigger here than it is in most other places. I mean, obviously there's the Middle Eastern countries. No one's ever going to take bodybuilding from them, but overall, the States just has this popularity here that is absolutely absurd, and it's better. It's better for bodybuilding, I think, because we have the resources here in the States to provide, sponsorships or provide name recognition and things like that. Like, obviously, Arnold comes from Austria, but if he was walking around the streets of anywhere in the States, he's recognized because here in the States, that's how it is. Whereas going back to other countries, that might not be the case. Like, obviously, not everyone, obviously you and I know, but not everyone's going to know like the name Jay Cutler or Ronnie, but enough people would in the States where if they walked around even today in 2023, they would be noticed. And I think that's kind of where the change has been. Although for the Olympia, at least, we're kind of regressing from U.S. winners. I mean, Hadi this year, big Rami year before. Like, I mean, I know that's 2 years, but it's a little bit of a change.
I mean, I think that's a whole nother world because, if you really look at the history, most winners of the Olympia are American. Roddy Coleman, Jay Cutler, Phil Heath, Lee Haney, all American, and they hold the most amount of Olympias, especially combined. Really the biggest outliers are like a couple smatterings of one winning here and there, like Rami and Hadi Chupin. But you also got like the bigger ones are like Dorian Yates and really Arnold are the only big like outside the U.S. winners that won multiple years in a row or won really multiple years. So, I mean, I still think that like Americans in general really dominate the bodybuilding world as far as like the top level bodybuilders go. I think what's Urs? Is he German?
Urs is German, big time.
Okay,
that's our pride and joy right there.
Yeah, but then you look at Sebum, who's Canadian.
Yep.
And it's like, well, fuck. I can't it's like we can't really root for him being I mean, he lives in America now, but like he's not an American technically. So it can't
yeah,
be
but Canada's not a real country, so you can loop him in as American.
Yeah, Canada's fake. Everybody's mouths are split, like exactly. From South Park. But yeah, so that's I don't know. I think bodybuilding wise, we definitely dominate by a long shot. So IFBB and NPC, I believe is American. IFBB is Western Europe and pretty much everywhere else. Eastern Europe and Russia is IFBB Elite or IFBB Elite, I think, or IFBB Pro Elite division or something. It's Elite is what it's called. Elite IFBB Pro or something. It's a different like genre or really I guess like organization. I don't even know if it's really connected to the IFBB. I'd have to look more into it, but their level of competition is nowhere near our level of competition. And that was proven because for a while, I'm sure you know who Michael Krizo is. For a while, Michael Krizo was like, people were like, holy shit, this guy could really be like a Mr. Olympia if he can get his IFBB card, because he can't compete in the IFBB until he got his IFBB card, not his IFBB Elite League. That doesn't translate. So he'd have to get his IFBB, and he's from Russia, I think. I think he's Russian. So we're like, holy shit, he could actually be like a real contender here. He came over here and got like 14th or some shit. It's like, okay, all right. Yeah, competition is not quite what we thought it was. So that was interesting to see. But so like that's the thing between Eastern Europe and the US. I will say personally, I feel that the EU side of IFBB definitely treats it more like an art than American bodybuilding does. American bodybuilding, a lot of it is about being a freak and looking crazy, where in the EU, I think, especially on the smaller side, like Classic or 212, there's a lot more people who are focused on the aesthetics and art behind, posing and building a great physique versus the US. So I will give them that for sure. But that's also up to opinion. My favorite poser of all time so far, he's French, and lives in France and competes in France, or competes in the EU. And I think he's light years ahead of any other poser here.
Well, everything is art. Respectfully, everything is art over in France. Like, everything you do is considered like an art form because of how the culture is built. So posing especially, absolutely. I don't blame you one bit for that.
Yeah, so that's the way I see it. But again, the IFBB Elite League is a different world entirely than the IFBB League on this side. But we also got a bigger and bigger industry down in Brazil that's getting bigger. Some of the best bodybuilders are kind of coming out of Brazil now. Ramon's one of them. Rafael Dow. I forget his last name. He's coming out of there. He was classic, but now he's open. And then there's a couple others. I know Sergio Giga or something like that. I forget his name exactly. He comes out of Brazil. So like there's a lot of these bigger guys coming out of Brazil now, which is kind of cool. But still the vast majority of the best competitors are all in the US. So bodybuilding wise, we still dominate, and Arnold could never argue with that. It's not even close.
Yeah, and I think it's just like you said, the time, like the generation, and like he had such like when he came to the States, he brought bodybuilders from overseas with him. I mean, it took time, but he brought people over with him, and that kind of integrated into the American bodybuilding scene.
Yeah.
But I think also at the same time, back then, like we mentioned earlier, bodybuilding wasn't in it. You weren't in it for the money. You were in it because you enjoyed the sport. You enjoyed
You
like
just loved
what
it.
you were exactly. And so these guys who came overseas were like, or coming from overseas, were doing it because they wanted to compete in front of the best and like as a group do it. And then the on the reverse side, nowadays there's such a financial benefit to it that you can be doing it from here in the States and actually make a living off of it. It might not even be tied to um, the love anymore. If someone just knows they're good at something and want to make money off of it, that's part of it. Like they could actually take no enjoyment out of it, but they know they're making money, and because of that, they're just here and doing it. You know.
So yeah, I think that the direction. So here's my thing. So it's great that there's a lot more money in it because it is a very, very difficult sport. I would argue it's one of the hardest sports out there. So there is a lot more incentive now to really push yourself than just being the best. Obviously, that is a big driver. But what I hope is that it doesn't go in the direction that other sports have gone in, which is like, which you probably can attest to this firsthand, is that when there is money and there is success involved, parents will push their kids really hard in order to be the best at it. So I hope it doesn't go in that direction. To speak even further on that, skateboarding and downhill skateboarding, or really downhill longboarding, is where one of my sports that I came from, is stuff, but they introduced skateboarding to the Olympics. And a lot of the skateboarding community is like on both, it's like weirdly on the fence, because we're like, in one hand, it's great to see that it's getting more recognition, but also it's like we didn't want skateboarding to become one of the sports where parents push their kids to practice and get better at it, when the point of skateboarding was an escape from reality. It was something that we just loved doing. There is no money in skateboarding, really, especially downhill skateboarding, like racing. There is no money in that. Like where downhill skateboarding is, I mean, it's really dead now at this point, which is sad. But where downhill skateboarding was when I was into it was like the beginning of bodybuilding. Like there's no money in it. Like you did it because you loved it. There was no like it cost more to race in what was called the IDF, that International Downhill Federation, the IDF, throughout the world. People would travel and race. It costed way more to travel and race than actually what you won. Like you were losing money by going around and racing. So really it just came down to sponsorships and shit. That's where people made money. But like there really was no money in it, kind of like what bodybuilding was. So like introducing more money and more opportunities for financial incentive does sometimes push it in a direction that the original people who did it for the love of it don't want to see it go. And I think that's like, in one way, that's kind of how I feel about bodybuilding. I want there to be more money in the bigger shows, especially, but I think I don't want people to start focusing on getting sponsorships when they're not ready yet. Or like trying to get like, I don't know. I see it already where guys will get like endorsed or like become an ambassador of a bullshit fucking supplement company that messaged them on Instagram. And it's harmful to the industry. So I hope that we go in a direction where, even though there is money involved, there's still those of us that do it for the love of it. I don't do it for the money. Like, I've been it's been nothing but losing money the whole time.
I was gonna say it's a money sink on the not even the amateur side, but even getting to the amateur side. Like, where I'm at, like, it's such a money sink right now.
Yeah, it's called a rich person sport is what bodybuilding is called. Like, you can't be poor and compete, really. I mean, some people have been able to do it, but like not nearly to the quality that you should be able to do it. Like, you need to be at least like in the US, like, it obviously financial standing is going to vary from person to person, but like, if you should probably be able to average at least like $600 plus a month towards it in order to comfortably be able to do it. I mean, my coach alone is a good chunk of that. And, you know, that doesn't account for like my amount I probably spend a month probably equals to about that, probably $600 a month. And a lot of that's food. A lot of that's protein. Gym membership is the least amount. Like, people are like, what? Like, I don't have 2 gym memberships, but when people do, it's like, they're like, oh, what do you have 2 gym memberships? It's so much money. It's like, dude, this is pennies on top of what I fucking pay for food and shit. You know, it's not much. So it is a very expensive sport, and 99.99% of people don't get to the pro level. It's the reality. They don't. Most guys don't have the genetics to compete to get their pro card. Most guys, what ends up happening is most guys go to do one show, realize how hard prep is, and then quit. And even then, before we even get there, most guys are at the point where they can't even stick to like I know one guy who wanted to become a bodybuilder but quit because, like, shortly after getting a coach, because he couldn't have pizza. And it's like, dude, if you're willing to give up bodybuilding because you can't have pizza, then you didn't really actually want it in the first place. You know what I mean?
Uh-oh, busted. Whenever you have a piece of pizza. Yeah, just
that's how it was.
This is a snack.
Yeah, this is a whole ass pizza. This is a snack. This don't count. This is something
I wish I could still eat a whole pizza. Not even like for the fact that diet-wise, but my body just doesn't let me eat a whole pizza anymore. I used to go through 2 medium pizzas from Domino's in a single night, and I just can't even eat like more than 2 slices now.
I wonder where I'll be, because like next weekend after my show, I'll be able to get a couple days of like whatever I want. I wonder if I'm able to eat as much as I want, or if I'm more on the side of like not being able to eat much because I've been eating so little for a while, you know, like I'm barely eating anything right now. So I wonder how much my stomach can handle when we go to eat bigger meals. Like, I wonder if I can, because I've been able to, for a long time, been able to complete a large pizza, no problem, and eat the whole thing myself. So I wonder if I'm able to do that, which I'm going to see. We'll see where we're at. If I can have whatever I want, I'm definitely going to try to get pizza greenlit and definitely get like a crazy good pizza and just eat the whole thing myself. Like, one large pizza for me, please. So we'll see what happens.
It won't even be like hunger wise. You'll absolutely be able to do it. It's just going to be whether or not it, can fit into what you're working with. Yeah. Digestion wise.
Right. So, I mean, I do know this weekend coming up, which I'm so excited for. I'm so excited for the show. This weekend's going to be fun, but it's going to be the show. I know a good dinner afterwards. Usually they split it up. So we'll see when I'm actually able to eat my dinner. But typically, from what I've seen, you go out with your coach. Previous shows that I've seen, my coach will go out with his clients that have competed. So like that might be cool to actually have a meal with him. I've never had a meal with him. And then so far he said that weekend, Saturday, Sunday, for sure, I'll be able to get whatever I want. So the next morning, Sunday morning, we're going to brunch because my mom will be down here. And man, as long as it's still greenlit and I'm not like back on prep starting that Sunday, I'm gonna just stuff my face with pancakes, man, because I'm already planning on it. I'm like, I want fucking pancakes, maybe a little bit of bacon, and that's it. Like I was like, I just want pancakes and just syrup and fucking, just fucking. Oh, I can't wait. It's gonna be so good.
But like that's a big part of it. Like people not understanding that level of dedication, like giving up that level of food.
You got to be fucking crazy. Like you got to be crazy to do this shit. Like I understand. So here's my thing. Like I completely understand people not being into bodybuilding. 100%. I'm not saying you should be into bodybuilding. I love it. I can never fully explain why I love it, but when it comes to fitness, I think everybody should go to the gym and ideally, or do some sort of fitness, hiking, whatever it is, long walks, whatever it is, running, biking, whatever it is. So my thing is, when it comes to bodybuilding, is that you do have to be quite a bit crazy in order to do this shit. Like I got up at 7 a.m. this morning on Saturday, walked my dogs so that they were calmed down. They would wake up my wife, walk them with a sweatshirt and pants. In the summer in North Carolina, I went to my apartment gym and did 40 minutes of fasted incline treadmill at 15 degrees, 3.2 miles an hour, to the point where like my chest is hurting. I'm so hungry. Like I could feel it in my chest. Like it hurts. I can't even drink. Like I have to take sips of water because if I don't, it feels like fire going down my system because I'm so hungry. You got to be a little crazy to do this shit. Granted, prep, especially like now where I'm at now, is not maintainable. This is not something I can do forever. And if this was the like how life had to be for more than like, I could probably do this max like 4 weeks until I call it a quits. Like peak week and like the last really the last 2 weeks of prep. If I had to do that like for longer than 4 weeks or even 6 weeks, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. Like this shit is so mental deteriorating. It's not even funny. And it's like trying to chew gum and drink water and eat cucumber slices just to make it to your next meal kind of takes a lot of mental strength. So this is not something that's maintainable, but like I said, you do got to be a little crazy to do this shit. So I totally understand if somebody's not really into it. It's just my problem is when somebody like doesn't even really put in the effort, like that guy that I was telling you about. Like he doesn't even really like he didn't even try, you know. So that's when I have a problem with it. It's just like, dude, you didn't even try.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the crazy part gets applied in the gym too. Like, who wants to look at 400 pounds and say, I think I should pick that up today? Like,
yeah, it's
we're
wild.
tapped. We're tapped.
Yeah, let me go ahead and do hack squat until I throw up. Like, like it takes a special kind of person. So I don't know. It's pretty wild, but that's also another problem too. Is you do it. I can't stand that you do it when you throw up and you see it as like hard work.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Like, no. That's bad timing for food. That's all it is.
No, I strive for that.
Nope. That's where we disagree.
Well, whenever you and I step on the O stage, where I'm going to take the German citizenship just to prove my argument today, and slap that on there. Christoph Knoll, German, while I'm wearing like an American flag hat.
German as fuck. Damn Nazi.
Whoa.
Whoa. Not that serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I get where you're coming from with a lot of it. I just think that Arnold needs to take into account the differences in generations really at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, he was writing from the 70s. Like, it wasn't like he was... it got produced now, but it's writing from the 70s. Right. Speaking of Arnold, though, I forgot to give this update. My copy of the modern encyclopedia, or the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding, is arriving today. So I'm going to have a nice reading day of Arnold's best work.
When did he publish that?
The original came out 77, I don't know, maybe early 80s he put it out, but I got the modern revised one, so gonna be a heavy reading day today.
Yeah. How long is it? Do you know how long it is?
800 pages.
Wow, really?
It's an encyclopedia, bro. You ever seen an
Yeah, but it's just
encyclopedia? It's
bodybuilding. How the fuck do you fill
yeah,
800 pages of like modern bodybuilding and shit? That's
it's all
wild.
exercises and diet. It's everything you need.
That's wild.
Yep.
I don't know what I would need from that. Like, I don't know what I would gain from that. That's a lot of fucking information. I
Yep.
mean, granted, the ACE training book I think is like 800 something pages, but that also covers everything outside bodybuilding. Like, it's like it doesn't really touch on bodybuilding that much. It's like, um, it really touches on just training and what's it called? Like longevity and health and stuff like that. And they talk about food and stuff. So there's a lot more to it than just um, simply bodybuilding. So like the 800 pages of just bodybuilding is fucking wild.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Next week when we record, I just know everything there is to know about everything, and I'm omniscient.
Yeah, you're like that meme. It's like I know more than you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, didn't you send me one when you go to a new gym and they're trying to get you on a fitness membership, and you're like, I know more than you.
Yeah, it's like when you travel to a new gym and they're like, "Oh, would you like a personal training package?" And it's like, "I know more than you." And it's like, yeah, that's literally how it is. It's like I went when I was looking at gyms for going down to Florida this past week. They were like, "Oh yeah, we have." I was like, I'm looking at other around for gyms because I'm in prep and just want to make sure that what gym I go to is pretty good or whatever." And he's like, "Oh yeah, we have well, we have like," he's like, "This is a great gym. We have personal trainers to help out with that." And in my mind, I'm like, I know more than them. Well, they can't help me. They'd be expensive spotters, is what they would be. I'm good,
Yeah,
thanks.
exactly. I mean, you can get spotters for free, so don't even waste your
Yeah,
time.
yeah. If I just ask someone, it'd be fine.
Yeah. I,
So it's
I was at the gym yesterday heading back, and I went to do my grip strength is slowly coming back, and my strength overall is slowly coming back. So I threw on 4 plates on each side for my rack pulls, and someone who knew that I went through the injury was like, "Hey, do you want to spot?" And I was like, "How are you going to spot me on a rack pull?"
even a deadlift. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like,
So I was like, respectfully, nah, I got this, and put it up for one. So strength is slowly coming back.
yeah, that's wild. My strength is in the fucking toilet now. It
Well, yeah,
sucks.
because you're so down in terms of food.
Yeah, my volume relatively is on the same level roughly. But when it comes to intensity, it's nowhere near the same.
Yeah.
Like when I did shoulder day and I did even arms yesterday and like it just wasn't where it used to be. I have to like cut out sets here and there to just make it through with like proper reps. Granted, it's like learning, so
Give
it's
me
like,
baby reps. Give me baby reps.
yeah, for real. That's what it was like. I was just like, I just need to get through this. But like my next arm day, I'll adapt appropriately because I start with like what I would normally start with, but then I'm like, fuck, this is heavy. So I like cut out a set so that I can get like a proper like 8 to 12 or whatever it is. Um, because if I were to go to like my top set that I had before, I wouldn't be able to get like 8. So I
Yeah.
cut that set out so that way I could still be at least 8. But I got to see what my coach says about training because we're supposed to change my training from 10 days out, but we haven't changed anything yet. So I got to find out what he wants me to change and see if there's anything, different about it. But probably really not that big of a difference. But we'll see. Really just at the end of the day, probably that's going to happen is we might combine a couple days because I probably will be honestly resting Friday. But let's say I do, we're going to have to probably combine a couple days. We might do like a push pull, probably a push pull kind of thing. I might just pull leg day, which is Thursday. I might probably just pull leg day and if I'm training Thursday, I might do like a upper body day,
I was
like
gonna
a
say you're
hour
competing in
long.
men's physique, so you want like obviously you want proportion to everything, but legs are kind of secondary. So if you're gonna get one
Yeah.
last lift in, have it be something that's gonna be like show ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, who knows? I mean, again, I'm gonna look more into it, see if there is anything that I need to change up. I doubt it, but we'll look into it, see what we can find out. Um, But yeah, just a water cut now. Vitamin C. I'm on Winstrol now. Haven't noticed any difference.
You on the amount of Winstrol that Liver King was?
How much was that? How much was he on? Did he ever say?
I don't know. It's just well, the amount is in that email, but it's it's absurd how you're spending like $13,000 a month.
Let me see if I could find it. I'm curious. Liver King. I don't know.
It's in the email. I know it is.
Yeah. Oh wait.
Liver King leaked email.
Okay, there it is. Winstrol, 50 milligrams a day. He said he just started this, been taking this for 3 weeks. Yeah. That's pretty standard. IGF-1 LR CJC with he's taking Omnitrope and ibutamoren. Jeez. Anyways, yeah, no, I'm taking the same dosage he was, which is 50 milligrams a day. That's the standard dose. One pill is 50 milligrams. And that's
but are you eating raw liver?
No, but I should be.
Come on,
man. No, but I take a pre-workout, and usually with orals, it takes a couple weeks for it to really kick in. So I'm not sure what results we're going to end up seeing from it. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see. But with the new show, we might end up just keeping it in. I have no idea. But we did pull test. Test is now out of my system. We pulled that on Tuesday, so that was also test prop. So as far as test goes, it's really low now. But I'm still getting it, I believe, from Trend and maybe a little bit from Masteron. But Trend and Masteron, we're going to pull Tuesday, I believe. We're supposed to pull it 3 to 4 days out, so I'm pulling it Tuesday. But I think we're going to keep Winstrol in. That's the only one we're going to be keeping in.
I'll send you a shipment of Testo Max and D-Bal to help you get there.
I need that. Give me the Trend baloney. Trend baloney. Whatever they call it.
That's literally the memes we had about calling it like the Trenbolone sandwich. That's literally the meme, and it's literally the name.
What is it called? Is it Trenbolone?
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we gotta change that, please, guys. Thanks. Can't be having that. But yeah, so that's where we're at now. We'll see. We got to figure out something for our next session because I'll be at my show next time we go to record.
We might do like a day or two after and do a recap or something like that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. So if we
might be a day or two late next week.
Yeah, if you guys don't hear from us on Sunday of next week, which would be the 25th, right? I think.
Yes.
Yeah, 25th. Just know that it'll probably come up maybe Monday or Tuesday or something like that. Maybe like Sunday afternoon, we might record it and post it or something. I don't know. Or like Sunday evening or something. I'll talk about my show and whatnot and where I'm at. But yeah, next time you guys hear from us, I should be done my show at that point. So that'd be fun.
Hell yeah, man. And then it's on to Excalibur.
Yep, on to the next one. Got 6 weeks from there, and we'll get real fucking peeled for that one.
And we're not talking sunburn.
Nope. Which I did have. I got a pretty.
I know. That's why I made the joke.
But
all right, y'all. Cool. We'll be seeing you next week then.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
Peace.